let's pick the Agenda Gymnast of 2023. In case anyone forgot, this is how it works. There will be 11 categories of buffoon throughout this event, based upon the categories in my best-selling, award-winning book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, A Field Guide to Identifying Political Buffoons, which, by the way, is available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. Cheap plug, I know, but hey, that's how we roll. Our beautiful and lovely guests will nominate buffoons for each category. Just about anyone is eligible for nomination, with the exception of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Because let's face it, if they were to be nominated, they'd dominate just about every category, and we can't have that now, can we? It takes a majority of our guests voting for a particular buffoon to win that category. Buffoons can win in multiple categories, and each winner goes on to compete throughout the end of the year for your vote as Buffoon of the Year. Appreciate you guys being here. I want to make sure that we got all the plugs in for everybody. Of course, AUN-TV.com, American Uncensored News Network on Rumble. George, we haven't talked about Frontiers of Freedom so much. I did talk about it a little bit. Talk about your show, brag about it a little bit. Where can people find you?
Sure. Well, Frontiers of Freedom, we do a weekly report, and that's on the AUN-TV network and at Rumble as well. So you can find us there. You can, but Frontiers of Freedom is a conservative think tank. We give out a Ronald Reagan Award. We, believe in the Constitution as it was written, and we believe in peace through strength. We believe in freedom and opportunity, those kinds of things. The kind of stuff you kind of expect someone like a Ronald Reagan.
Absolutely. And while I don't hold it against you that I haven't been nominated for this award yet, even though we've known each other for years, that's okay. That's okay. Tell people where you can find you online.
Sure. ff.org. And then also I'm on Twitter. I say that even though it's now called X, because that makes it sound like it's a porn site. And I don't do any porn. So,
Not anymore, that is.
No, I never did. So
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Clever that way. G. Landrith. I should have thought that through, though, because it spells Glandrith.
Listen, that's your stage name. It's cool. It's okay. Listen, I'm sure there's some Mehmet Oz deep fake out there somewhere that maybe we'll find. Anyway, Sharron, where can we find you on social media with all the lovely things that you've been doing?
Well, I have a website, SharronAngle.us, SharronAngle.us. And I also have some articles that I have put up on AUN Uncensored News Network. That website carries my stuff. You can get a hold of me through AUN-TV. And of course, Rick and I do the Conservative Commando. So I just ask you to go to our live stream and check on it.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, I have a lot of fun with Rick Trader, but I need to sincerely thank him every year that I get to do this, because if it wasn't for Rick giving, a kid from Brooklyn the confidence to actually step out from just doing a little bit of podcasting, to go into start doing radio, to push me to start doing video. If it wasn't for Rick Trader, this show isn't happening. My book doesn't get written. Thank you, pal, for everything. I truly do appreciate it.
Ass kisser.
Well, Gene, you are truly one of the good guys in what we do. Having done the Conservative Commandos for 12, 13 years now, I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people at CPAC. I've met a lot of people through the interviews that we do on this show. But you are truly one of the really, really good guys out there. And Gene, I'm just honored to just call you a friend. It's that simple. I'm just honored to call you a friend.
Stop. Because, just don't. Just don't.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
The Agenda Gymnast. This rounds out sort of this lesser hypocrisy section that we've been talking about. The Agenda Gymnast is the politician that's constantly chasing the dragon. They only care about winning. They don't care about how they get there. The perfect example I'll give you. Think about this. During the impeachment of Bill Clinton, who was one of the impeachment managers at the time? Lindsey Graham. Who was against that impeachment because the will of the people should not be contested? Jerry Nadler. Fast forward to 2020, and the roles reverse, and they're using the exact same arguments against each other, except now it's Lindsey Graham saying the will of the people should not be overturned, and now it is Jerry Nadler talking about the dignity of the office of the President of the United States. It was literally the exact same argument. They are both agenda gymnastics because they only care about the goal and not about the personal credibility, the personal capital that they exert in getting to that goal. And every time they start using more and more personal capital, they become more and more of a sellout. So that's what we're talking about here. And again, we have so many nominees. Just to get out of the way, just a nominee in general, not because she's done anything super crazy, but Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for the White House, has to be an automatic nominee because it's her job to run agenda gymnastics from that podium every day. Some days she's okay at it. Some days she really sucks at it. We can all think of examples of her with Peter Doocy tangling back and forth. And it seems like she had more problems with him. And in general, the press corps really went after the White House a lot more than I saw in past years.
All right, I'm
You haven't called on me in 2 seasons, Karine.
and not calling on you today. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
You should be ashamed
Go
of
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
That shows
Go ahead.
disrespect to a free and
Go
independent
ahead.
media. It's a blacklist,
I'm gonna
one of our
close.
country's largest and most widely read newspapers, Karine. That shows contempt for a free and independent press.
You can't keep discriminating against some people in the briefing room because you don't like them, you don't like them.
So you have a choice.
No,
You have a choice.
against
You
me
have a
and
choice.
against a number of people
Okay.
in the briefing room, and I'm saying that that's not right. This is not China. This is not Russia. This is the United States. This is the White House. It's been 7 months. I sent you emails.
The rest of us are here too, pal.
It's been 7 months. You guys have not done anything for
If
me.
you have grievances, you should bring them to her later.
I have.
So we don't really have to talk about her. The press secretary is always a nominee, and she's there this time. This, to me, is going to be a battle between two titans. I'm going to talk about the more obvious one, Alejandro Mayorkas, because the story on the border and the border crisis and the migrant crisis has all been the result of the delusions of Alejandro Mayorkas in denying that there's issues at the border, in not providing the proper resources, saying everything's fine, putting his head into the sand on behalf of the Biden administration, saying everything is fine.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge...
I think your microphone is not on.
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes or no,
at the
is
southern
there a
border.
crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question,
So you're
Senator.
refusing to answer?
Senator, there is a very significant challenge, and
Will
we
you
are
answer if there's a
therefore-
crisis?
Therefore, we are dedicating the resources...
Okay, so you're refusing
that
to answer. Well, Secretary Mayorkas, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer, which is your and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answer, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside...
So you
and
refuse to
support-
answer. Let me ask you the next question. Has the crisis at our southern border made Americans less safe, yes or no?
Senator, we are dedicated to the safety
Has
and
the crisis
security
made Americans less
of
safe? I don't
individuals.
want a discourse. It's a yes or no question.
Senator, we have a challenge of
You refuse to
immigration.
answer the question.
Not-
Mr. Secretary, let me show you how someone doing his job answers a question in a straightforward manner. Chief Ortiz, is the crisis that is currently ongoing at the southern border making the border less safe for Americans and aliens alike? Answer, yes. One word, one syllable, 3 letters. That's how someone answers a question and does their job. You're being a politician misleading the American people. Let me give you a chance again. Will you show the same integrity Chief Ortiz shows? Is the crisis at the southern border making Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we have 260,000
You refuse to
people
answer the question. Let's move on.
Sharron, I think out of all of us, you're the closest one to our southern border, really, being out west in Nevada. What kind of permanent damage has Mayorkas and his Department of Homeland Security caused to just the western region of the country?
Well, I don't think that you can specify just the Western region. We're kind of the gateway. I think California has a bigger open door than Texas. Texas at least tries, and so does Arizona. But I think that California is the gateway state, and we can just see it coming into our state through different things. You know, we have that always that fear of that criminal element coming in, the drugs, the fentanyl, all of that stuff. I think anytime you're talking about a border that's not secured, you're talking about a factor of fear for the residents that are any place within the vicinity. They're using useful idiots like Rashida Tlaib and like Mayorkas. That's the way I see these guys. They're just useful idiots. They will be the first on the chopping block when they get here. You can't trust. That's what Lenin said. He said, I have some useful idiots and you can't trust them. So once you get into power, you take care of your useful idiots first. Get rid of those guys. And I think that they just really haven't read their history. They don't know what they're doing with this, opening these borders to let just everybody and anybody come in. And it's really, I think we're getting to critical mass now, Jean, not just economically, not just our healthcare system, not just our educational system, but our true security system is right now in such a vulnerable place for this nation. And so I shudder to think what's next if we don't close this border, these borders.
I absolutely agree with you. For Mayorkas, though, this is someone that has been the target of impeachment talks within Congress as well for the absolute horrible job he's done in protecting any border, really, but particularly the focus on the southern border. But every time I see this guy at a hearing, whether it's before the Senate or the House, George, he's always evasive. He's always avoiding talking about an issue, and he thinks that just by ignoring the questioning, that the good faith questions of senators and representatives, that somehow he's gotten past to the goal of saying that he's in control of the border, when in actuality, in reality, nobody has control of the border. So, George,
well, the Mexican cartel does, but yeah.
Yeah, but let's talk about the focus, the games that politicians play in contorting and twisting and turning to get to that goal that they're, in this case with Mayorkas, of saying, oh, don't ignore your lying eyes, I have everything under control.
Yeah, it's pretty stunning. You're right. He's basically, now, because almost immediately once he took office and Biden took office, the illegal border crossings skyrocketed and got close to 200,000 within just a couple of months. And then since then, they've been well over that. And these are just the ones we know about, meaning that either that they've literally been able to count them, or in some cases, they're, quote, gotaways, which means we captured their image crossing, over the border, but we weren't able to, stop them and say, hi, welcome, and give them goodies or something, give them a chocolate chip cookie on their way in. And, but that doesn't even count the unknown gotaways. And I suspect that number might just double the entire amount. So the government admits to over 8 million people getting in the last 3 years. That's almost 3 million a year. And I bet you it's over 3 million a year because that's just the ones we know about. And that's what he'll admit to. And we know he's basically just a liar. In fact, he's actually worse than a liar. He's a lying sack of rotting fecal matter.
You can say shit. I'll let you say shit. It's okay.
Language.
He's committed perjury multiple times, lying to Congress when under oath. And so that's got to count for something, because sometimes people who are buffoons, they're not necessarily purposefully liars. Maybe they're just stupid. But this guy's actually lying and does it regularly. And he tells you lies, like you said. These are, who are you going to believe? me or your lying eyes. And that's the game he's playing. And it's kind of like he's standing out in a pouring, driving rain. He's dripping wet. And he's saying, come on out. It'd be a great day for a picnic. And we're looking at him going, yeah, I don't think so, moron.
Absolutely. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Hey, Rick, I'm giving you your moment. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden right now. I'm giving you your moment because there's another nominee. There's another nominee that you can go off on and talk about Joe Biden and impeachment and Hunter Biden and all of it. And that's the trust fund baby from the Levi Strauss & Company that represents part of Brooklyn, Dan Goldman, and his Agenda Gymnastics in defending the Biden family from all the attacks from the House majority concerning Hunter Biden, his crimes, and the possible connections between Hunter Biden's activities overseas and Joe Biden's bank account.
There's no connection in any bank records, in any recollection, in any testimony between President Biden and his son Hunter's business dealings that, like many people, Hunter spoke with his father every day and would often occasionally would put his father on to say hello to whomever he happened to be caught at dinner with. And Mr. Archer clarified that was sometimes people that they were they were trying to do business with, and it was sometimes friends or other social engagements.
Are Republican allegations that the Bidens received money through shell companies? Did Archer talk about those? Did he verify those allegations?
There is no evidence that anyone other than Hunter Biden received any money in connection with the business transactions with Devon Archer.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden's business associates? Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're gonna, well, I don't think that's what he said.
So go off, champ, all over Joe Biden as much as you want to right now.
Well, I don't want to go off on Joe Biden as much as this category. I love, Gene. Actually, the Academy Awards gives out a little statue. The Academy Awards gives out a little statue, and they've named this little statue. It's called Oscar. Well, I think that we should call this award the Agenda Gymnastics Award. I think we should call it the Graham Nadler Award from here on out into perpetuity. I mean, this is the name that we're giving this award, and it's your fault, Gene. You sold me on it, the Graham Nadler Award. But you, Gene, have made such a compelling argument for Mayorkas. How can I talk about Dan Goldman? I mean, I'm sitting here and I was looking at this category and I was thinking about Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, but when you talk about a gymnast, she may be a gymnast, but she never gets a 10. She's a 1 or a 2. She never gets a 10. But the argument you made for Mayorkas, I mean, when you talk about a gymnast, somebody who hurdles, jumps over and spins, this is the guy. This guy is the master of never, ever, ever answering a question. He spins, he jumps, he hurdles, but he never, ever, ever answers a question. So how can I make a case for Dan when Gene Berardelli, attorney at law, goes in front of the jury and makes such a compelling case for Mayorkas?
Well,
I rest my case.
Because I'm a good lawyer, I can argue against myself here. And I can say that Dan Goldman has been caught more often than not in really white knighting the Biden family, talking about how there's no direct evidence, there's no direct link between Hunter Biden's dealings and Joe Biden himself. And he actually accused, again, Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger at that weaponization of government hearing, accused them of running conspiracy theories, and then espoused his own conspiracy theory about Rudy Giuliani and Russia really manipulating the copy of the Hunter Biden laptop. You know, he went full tinfoil hat on this one to try to make the point that you didn't really see the laptop. You only saw a copy of it. And that copy was really made by Pepe Sylvia. And we can't find him in the office right now to deliver the mail to him.
Sylvia, this name keeps coming up over and over again. Every day, Pepe's mail's getting sent back to me. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. I look at the mail. Well, this whole box is Pepe Sylvia.
And he just went off on a giant rant, really, about how the reporters were just rambling conspiracy theories when he himself was doing his own conspiracy junk.
You've talked about the Hunter Biden laptop and how the FBI knew it existed. You are aware, of course, that the laptop, so to speak, that was published in the New York Post was actually a hard drive that the New York Post admitted here was not authenticated as real. It was not the laptop the FBI had. You're aware of that, right?
It was the same contents.
How do you know?
Because it's the same. I mean,
you would have to authenticate it to know it was the same contents. You have no idea. You know hard drives can be manipulated.
Are you suggesting the New York Post participated in a conspiracy to construct the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop?
No, sir. The problem is that hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia.
But what's the evidence that happened?
Look at Goldman's face right there. Where's the evidence, Congressman? That is the exact definition of a conspiracy theory. This could have happened, that could have happened, and Rudy Giuliani did this and manipulated that, and you don't know what's in the laptop. But the problem is, we do know what's in the laptop. There's been so much coverage of this. There's been books written about this. The authentication of the material found on Hunter Biden's laptop and the copy examined by the New York Post and every other news agency out there. I believe the Washington Post even authenticated it. And this guy fashions himself to be the intellectual elite. He's from a very posh, I don't want to say yuppie because that's an insult to yuppies. He's from a very posh area of Brooklyn, Clinton Hill, downtown Brooklyn over there. And he fancies himself, he's a multimillionaire. Like I said, trust fund baby. He's worth nine figures. And he fashions himself to be this intellectual. He's better than everybody else, superiority complex mentality. Wow. So to me, that is enough to take him down, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's enough to overcome Mayorkas, but it certainly is a pretty good case for him to be the agenda gymnast if he's jumping through hoops for Joe Biden. I just beat myself.
Gene, I think you made a great case for another category, the illusionist of the year award. The illusionist of the year award, and put that guy in it, and he's a winner.
Absolutely. I would, you know what? I'm taking down all these notes. I'm typing as I do it right now. I'm trying to find my illustrator for the book, John Panisi, did a really great job with some artwork. You might see it behind me here. I'm trying to find the picture of Nadler and Lindsey Graham that he did for me because I had a lot of weird requests from him on the book. I wanted to have Elizabeth Warren dressed as Pocahontas, for the book. And one of the things, I wanted to have Cory Booker dressed as Spartacus in the book. It came out really good. But for the agenda gymnast, what he ended up doing was putting Graham and Nadler on a balance beam. And Nadler's in the back, and the balance beam is going off kilter a little bit here. So, by my friend John Panisi, a tremendous illustrator doing that. But enough about art critiques. Time to vote.
I've been thinking we've been in the twilight zone here for a little while. And by that, I mean, we've been talking about mental illness. You talk about narcissism. Now you talk about delusional folks and what do they call that when you're a liar, a psychopathic liar or whatever they call that. We've been talking about mental illness here, and I think that it just underlines that fact that when you get with liberalism, you are mentally ill. It makes you mentally ill.
So let me just give a quick disclaimer. I want to give a quick disclaimer right now to cover my ass. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm a guy with a big mouth who wrote a book with a lot of opinions. In fact, I call it a pseudoscience. But I can't deny there are lots of indicators of traits. Not a diagnosis, but traits that people exhibit outwardly in public that could lead one to believe that there are indications here of something else at play. With that said, Sharron, I completely agree with you that we are seeing symptoms of a larger problem in politics. And it really is that, is this the best we've got? These are the best people we can find to hold these offices? Or is it just these traits played out in public and amped up to 11 for either the personal gratification or the professional gratification of these buffoons? But I noticed you didn't vote yet. I noticed you've been talking around voting. So I was just
wondering, if we're really making fun of crazy people, and maybe we should not do that.
No, do not mock the mental. Okay, everybody out there, I want you to zoom in on me right now. Okay, this side of the screen. Don't mock the mentally ill. This is not what this is about. These are people who have passed competency tests, presumably sometime in their life. They hold office and they just go all funny. Okay? Don't mock the mentally ill. We're mocking unreasonable people. That's what we're doing.
So, with that, you want me to vote? Okay, here's my vote.
Pick whoever else you want. You can even pick someone who we haven't talked with. We can always throw in George Santos, Rashida Tlaib, the usual suspects out there. Gavin Newsom can also win a double award right now at this point. If you want to talk about Agenda Gymnast.
I want to make sure we stop the voting, and then we need to bring in boxes and boxes of ballots that have not been confirmed.
Oh, that happens after the show when I decide who actually wins. So don't worry about it.
My vote goes to Mayorkas. You've all made a great case for him. We're suffering here in the West because of him. There's no doubt. He's the one.
All right, George, who you got?
I'm also going to vote for Alessandro.
Say his name.
Alejandro Mayorkas.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, evidently not that easy for me to say. But anyhow, yeah, he's not just a buffoon. He's a criminal. Because perjury is a crime. And he's a serial perjurer.
And you wonder when the House is going to move on that, if at all. Who knows? To go back to the beginning of the show when we were talking about George Santos, they moved on Santos. Why don't they move on Mayorkas?
That's my point. Is it kind of frustrates me that we get rid of Santos, but it seems like we're okay with Mayorkas, and I'm just like, yikes!
I hear you, Rick. You gonna make it 3 in a row for Mayorkas, or are you going with somebody else? Who you got?
Absolutely, Mayorkas.
All right. I'll go along to make it unanimous. Who am I to contradict 3 amazing people who've taken their time out to do this wonderful show with me?
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.